continue our conversation about disciples and their gurus, gurus and their disciples. Before we do that though, we are really blessed to have a good amount of meditation time today and tomorrow. We're sitting for some slightly longer meditations, hour-and-a-half meditations. Just a couple of small recommendations about sitting, particularly for those longer meditations. In shorter meditations we can often get away with it, but in longer meditations it's good to remember a couple of things. The first is, try to move the body as little as possible. So this applies in several different ways. Not to have, when we're moving from, say for example, the bow, not to move too much and around, but actually to keep low, gentle, slow movements, just so that we can keep that meditative state and keep that awareness as much as possible. So the slower that you move and the less that you move, the easier it will be to maintain that concentration. That's one thing. And the second thing is something I heard from Guruji, and I brought it into my own practice and I found it extremely helpful. When we're sitting for meditation, we might often have the desire to scratch or to move the hair or to fiddle with the clothes or something, because we feel like maybe it's uncomfortable. I heard Baba say, don't give in to that, because once you start, the mind will give you something else to adjust or another itch to scratch, and so constantly it will then interrupt your meditation. So I brought this into my practice and I found it to be extremely helpful, particularly for longer meditations. The mind tempts us. I have a little itch, I'll just deal with this itch and then I'll come back. But actually it's never just one itch. It's always this and then this and then this and then, one's doing all kinds of strange dances. So just a couple of small little guidelines that will help us to go deeper in our longer meditations. Move slowly, consciously, and as little as possible, and don't give in to the mind when it tells you, I just need to adjust the trouser leg. If I just pull my sock in the right way, it'll feel so much better and I'll be able to go deep. It is all an illusion. So try to keep the body as still as possible, and it will be possible to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Does it make sense? Good. Lovely. So I love to read the lives of the saints, and I think many of you also love that as well. Scriptures are nice, but the lives of the saints, for me, are so much more accessible as a source of wisdom. I have to struggle with scriptures, but with the lives of the saints, I can digest them I can read them extremely quickly. Digesting is harder. And it's not to read the lives of the saints as a TV program or as entertainment, but to know that the lives of the saints are littered with gems for us. Gems that we can, if we can excavate them and bring them into our own lives, they can bring such beauty into our sadhana, such inspiration to us. And also, many wonderful tricks and tips can be learnt about how to live. And so in this way, Sri Guruji has written so many books on the lives of our Kriya Yoga masters. It's beautiful, but also Baba has recommended, Baba has published at times, and Baba has written lives of saints who are not in our tradition. And so I was speaking yesterday a little bit about Tibetan Buddhism, and I was telling my loving ma about there's a genre of books in Tibetan Buddhism, which is the lives of enlightened masters, written by enlightened masters, often by their students, but not exclusively by their students. So this genre of literature is also very beautiful, and one can learn a lot from reading those kinds of books and studying them with veneration, studying them in the same way as we study scriptures, because in the same way as scriptures are revealed knowledge, in exactly the same way, the lives of the saints reveal such beauty to us. Their lives are, in many ways, their messages. And so I received this beautiful book some days ago, Glimpses of a Divine Life, which is Baba's recent book on Gurudev, that he, one of two that he wrote for the inauguration of the Habibpur temple, the temple in the place of Gurudev's birth. So some of you went to that program, and I think it was a very beautiful program. Many thousands of people were fed daily. Baba was saying that maybe about 80, 90 people are coming daily to meditate and do their Kriya practice at this place. Very beautiful. So, and if you look at that temple, my God, it is like a dream. It doesn't look like... First time when I saw the photographs, I thought, oh, this is the artist's rendering. But no, it's very beautiful. So one day I hope and pray that we all are lucky enough to go and spend some time there, maybe together. So I received this book, and I thought, beautiful, let me read it. And as soon as I turned to the back, I read about, it says here, this is an intimate reflection of the qualities that transformed Sri Gurudev from a disciple into a God-realized master. So I thought it fits beautifully with our discussion on gurus and disciples. We first started speaking back in the non-residential program about the qualifications of a disciple, how to become a worthy disciple. Then we moved on to talk about the path of the disciple, the path of following the master, come what may and no matter where it leads. Yesterday we spoke a little bit about the grace of the Guru and the way that we can make ourselves available for that grace, available to take that grace, and also how that grace is present when things don't work out the way we might like them to in sadhana, and what we might be able to do, learning from the teachings and the lives of the masters. And now here we have this beautiful collection of values and qualities to cultivate if we wish to go from being a worthy disciple and to progress on the path of spirituality. So I thought it would make a beautiful addition to our discussion and the next stepping stone, the next lily pad in our hopping forward on this topic. Guruji starts the book with this nice quote from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The lives of great men all remind us we make our lives sublime and departing, we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. And it's truly the case that Sri Gurudev has left us not merely footprints, but huge tractor tracks to follow, if we can just pay attention to them. And thanks to the love of Sri Guruji, we have book after book after book of learning about Gurudev's life. We have My Time with the Master, and if you haven't read yet, In the Company of My Master, which are the diaries of Sri Guruji from the time when he was with Gurudev. And when you read those books, you feel like you're in the room. It's like reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. You feel like you're in the room with those disciples. You get confused. You think, oh, that time when? we were all there. No, actually you were just reading that, but it felt so alive. It's a beautiful handbook for spirituality and a beautiful way to live it in the presence of Gurudev. But Baba says in this book, and Gandhi said this, and many have said this, that many great saints say, my life is my message. So Baba in this book says, well, if Gurudev's life is his message, what is the message that we should take? What should we as disciples take from that life? What are the lessons? And so what I would like to do, what I propose to do, I read this book, you also should read this book, but as a little taster, let me give you some of the stories and some of the lessons that Baba takes. I also have found beautiful stories in this book about the life of Sri Gurudev, many that I didn't know. And I thought I could then supplement with some other stories that from Gurudev's life to further illustrate some of these values and some of these lessons that Guruji is talking about. So I hope you enjoy. So the first lesson, or one of the first lessons that Guruji talks about, that we can take from the life of Sri Gurudev, is to live with a goal and with a mission. So, Gurudev came from a well-to-do family, and he was well educated. He qualified nicely as a textiles engineer. And if you read anything of the life of Sri Gurudev, you know he was extremely good at that job. He was very efficient. He could fix machines that no one could understand what was going wrong. And he became very successful in this. And he wore beautiful clothes. And some of you may know that the great Bengali woman saint, Ananda Moima, she knew Gurudev. And she used to call him Sahib Baba, sort of respected gentleman Baba, because of the way he used to dress in very fine clothes, often Western clothes, very beautiful. So Gurudev was very good at the world. It wasn't like he was bad at the world. It wasn't like he had nothing to do but spirituality. He was very well accomplished and well settled in the world. But Gurudev had a different goal. I was speaking to one young disciple the other day, saying just because one is good at something doesn't mean one should keep doing it. And actually, we may be good at many things, many worldly things, but that doesn't mean that's what we should spend our time doing. And so Sri Gurudev had a goal and a mission that was different. And so he pursued spirituality, and I'll tell you more about how hard some of that was for him. But he dedicated himself completely to his goal being to know God, and his mission being to awaken God in the hearts of others. There's a nice story, some of you may have heard it. Gurudev said, Gurudev was meditating in Karar Ashram, in his little room, you may have seen it, with his idol of Mother Kali there. And it came to him in his meditation, like he had the thought, let me read some of the Gita. So he went to the Gita, and he picked it up, and he paused for a moment, holding the Gita. And then he said, oh God, the thought came to me that it would be nice to read the Gita. But I have vowed to search only you. So first, I will meditate and attain realization, and then only I'll read the Gita. And he touched the Gita to his head, and he put it down, and he went back to his meditation. So single-minded was his desire to know God face to face, to realize God in this body temple, to achieve the highest states of samadhi and God realization, that even reading the scriptures was put to the side if it got in the way with the immediate achievement of his goal. I think there's something very lovely and something beautiful in that single-mindedness, that search for God. Let me not be distracted even by your words, God. I only want you. So, living with a mission, living with a goal. Of course, it's not to say that reading scriptures is wrong or in any way, But just Baba had a different idea. He wanted to feel God in a particular way. Guruji also says that there's this constant theme in Gurudev's life of always thinking high. That when mundane matters come in front of us, never to sit with them for too long, but actually to always go up. When others are pulling down, go up. There's a nice example. Gurudev was sitting with some saints, some sadhus, and the head of that order was there, and his monks were all around him. And then one of the monks, another monk came in, and one of the monks of this order said to their guru, that monk is using soap. And in that tradition it is not to use soap. And Gurudev noticed that the way that guru, he didn't pay any attention and kept speaking about God and scriptures. So even these things that we consider to be, strictures and rules and guidelines, we should adhere to them as much as we can, but we shouldn't criticize others. We shouldn't allow our mind to come to that level. Gurudev was always looking for the higher level, for the higher ideal, for the greater contribution. So I thought this was a really beautiful way. He always was acting with humility and acting bowed down low, but always thinking high. Very beautiful. While he was thinking high, he was living with humility. Guruji often uses the example, the metaphor that you may have heard it as well, that when a tree is full of fruit, it bends down low. So when one is rich with something, we should become more humble, not more arrogant. Look at me, I am this tree, I've got all these fruits. No. A tree full of fruit bends down low. And even in this program, and after this program, we may think to ourselves, here I am with my guru, I've been charged up nicely. I'm so great. It's great to spend time with the guru. We should always, one who is rich with the blessings of the guru stoops down extremely low. Let me be even lower than me. Not even where your feet are, God, but underneath the mat, underneath your feet. That's where I will be. That kind of humility. And in the life of Gurudev, we saw this humility so beautifully. You know, when he left India, he was 67. Guruji often says, when others are retiring, Gurudev was leaving. That was when he left to start his mission internationally. So 67, it's not easy to travel constantly the way that Gurudev did. He went to Europe, he went to South America, he went to the United States, he went back again to Europe, he went back again to South America, constantly traveling. You know, he could have stayed in India, realized master in Karar Ashram of a beautiful lineage. He would have been lauded. Everywhere he went would have gone, garlands would have been put around him and flowers thrown at his feet, people prostrating and doing everything. But instead he came out to find all of us. And when he did, he lived so humbly. He slept in bunk beds, in rooms. Can you imagine? 67-year-old great guru sleeping in bunk beds. He would wash the dishes of the disciples. In order to make sure that disciples would come and meditate, he would cook before so that they could take food, they could come for morning meditation and then stay for breakfast so that it would be easy for them. He would cook again for lunch and dinner. Gurudev would cook himself, serving in every way the disciples. This is the humility that he lived with. not that I'll sit here and you will all serve me, but I will forego all of my own comforts. I will come, I will cook for you, and I will clean your mess so that you can have this Brahma Vidya, so that you can have the true knowledge. It's really very amazing to think about. So, living life with a goal and a mission. Thinking high while living with humility. And a really important part of this is Gurudev always lived with a sense of adjustment and accommodation. You know, there are some of the old disciples of Gurudev in the United States. It's like a mantra to them. Adjust and accommodate. I remember some of you may know about this retreat. It was in Uttarkashi. It was in 2013. And it got flooded. There was a big cloudburst. It was a big disaster. I happened to be on this retreat. It was a very amazing experience. One day I will share with you all of the, I can only say, magical experiences that we had of Guruji's love and his care and his protection. But on day 2 of the retreat, we had been doing nice long meditation, 7 hours of meditation a day. On day 2 of the retreat, Sampurnanandama, who was then Catherine Ma, walks into the hall after morning meditation, which I think was a 2-hour meditation, 2.5, something like this. And she said, we all were just, we were drunk and we were just coming to, and she said, Hari Om, I hope everybody's feeling very relaxed. The bridge to the ashram has been swept away. The water is coming. It's taken out 3 or 4 villages upstream and it's coming for us next. So let's prepare. And so it was a very... And really for a couple of days there, maybe 2 days, survival was genuinely a question. And so... And just to tell you, whenever I go to a retreat, I like to set an intention beforehand. So before this retreat, I thought to myself, I would like to work on 2 things. My faith in Sri Guruji and my relationship with discomfort. I made everybody suffer because of my wish. I told Sampurnanandama years later that I had that. She said it was your fault. So we all were preparing. We had to pack and repack every day, packing, repacking. And I'll tell you many of these stories later. But it was one beautiful thing I noticed, that we had several old disciples of Sri Gurudev there, including Yogacharya Richard Peterson and his wife, who I think he met Gurudev first time in 79, so a good amount of time. And he just kept saying, adjust and accommodate, in his slightly Canadian-American accent. Adjust and accommodate, Vishaal Baba. And so he would just march around and something would happen, we were all completely drenched or there'd be mud everywhere. Adjust and accommodate. And it became, and he said, Gurudev always used to say, adjust and accommodate. And he gave a talk, and it was all about, you got it, adjusting and accommodating. And it was amazing. And it went into all of us. And so we all started, something would go wrong. We will adjust and accommodate, don't worry, Baba. And it was beautiful. And we see this in the life of Sri Gurudev all the time. And I loved it to see that Guruji had written adjustment and accommodation. I just thought that was perfect because I learnt it first. I tasted it first in the disciples of Sri Gurudev. Really wonderful. In his life, there's one beautiful example. You may have heard this story. I've heard it before and brought a tear to the eye. Gurudev went to the house of some disciples, and those disciples, the parents weren't there, but the children, the daughters were there. And so they welcomed Gurudev, they were extremely excited to see him. And so they said, Gurudev, have you eaten? No, I haven't had any food. So they said, we'll cook. So these beautiful children were cooking food for Gurudev. Gurudev was accompanied by a brahmachari. We don't know who. But the food came out, and the brahmachari leaned over to Baba and said, Gurudev, there is onion in this. Did you know Gurudev didn't take onion garlic? Gurudev said, shh, you quiet. And joyfully prayed and ate the food. And afterwards, Gurudev said to that brahmachari, you could see only the onion. Could you not see the love of these beautiful mothers who had cooked this for us? Food was offered to God. It is prasad. We will take it. Everything is God. Adjust and accommodate. Beautiful, lovely message of Sri Gurudev. Another message that Guruji points to is that Gurudev always lived with the masters. Lived with his masters. But you'll say, well, no, that's not technically true. His first Guru, Sri Vijay Krishna, he didn't live with for an extended period of time. Sri Yukteswarji, he actually didn't spend a huge amount of time in his physical presence. Sure, Satyanandaji, but not all of the masters who were in his life, he didn't spend a lot of time with them. What do you mean? But actually, Guruji said he gave us the secret of living with the master in Australia during question and answer. He said living with the master, the true way to live with the master is to live with the teachings of the master. And that Gurudev always did.